Any off the beaten path guys that are really jumping out to you so far at camp?
I mean, look, I think guys like Patrick Johnson, their 7th-round pick, who's being used in this new Sam Otto role, where they're playing a 4-3 under. And so if you're not really familiar with that, essentially you have 3 down linemen, an edge who stands up, 2 hook responsibility linebackers. You would call those normal off-the-ball linebackers. And then you have a guy far outside who is basically a 3-4 outside linebacker who's called an Otto or an elephant or whatever you want to call it. Gus Bradley called it an Otto. Pete Carroll, I believe, calls it an elephant, whatever. Anyway, they're using a lot of guys that you're like, why are these guys competing for starting jobs? So it's like Joe Osman, Jannard Avery, and Patrick Johnson. But I got to tell you, as miserable as that second half was against the Steelers, the one guy who really stood out to me on defense was Patrick Johnson. He seemed to always know where to be. I liked him in space. He's a college defensive end, so he can rush the passer. But I was really impressed by his ability to stop the run and move around in space. And I think he's a guy that's kind of under the radar. I think you look at a guy like Elijah Riley, this second-year safety who was a practice squad player last year. He's made some plays as of late. And then you kind of look in the middle. I mean, Hassan Ridgeway's been injured in the second half of both of his seasons here, but yesterday he ran with the starters with Javon Hargrave sidelined and looked the part. So I think there are some guys, especially on defense, who are emerging. On offense, I mean, I think Jason Huntley is a guy who's dealing with an injury, but has had a pretty good camp to this point and could force the Eagles to keep 4 or 5 running backs.
Overall, you talked a lot about a lot of guys on defense there. What have you taken from Jonathan Gannon as the new defensive coordinator of this football team?
Well, I think his guys are really prepared, and I actually think Nick Rallis, the linebackers coach, deserves a lot of credit. The linebackers ran away with these joint practices. All 3 of the presumed starters got interceptions. Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, Eric Wilson. They seem to be in the right spots at the right time. And then you kind of look at the corners. I thought Steven Nelson played pretty well. I thought Darius Slay played very well. Everybody else was awful, but they played well. And I think this defensive line is going to be dangerous. Like, they're dangerous. They're going to be very good. So I've been impressed. I think, look, they've shown out and shown up better than the 2 training camps that I've covered with Jim Schwartz. So it's a change of pace and it's a new system, but I think the defense is thriving.
What stuck out to you as far as the other side of the football with Nick Sirianni running his offense and Shane Steichen? Well,
I think a lot of stuff spread out. I've noticed that the coaching staff is extremely deliberate with everything that they do. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of high energy. Nick Sirianni is constantly on these wide receivers about their technique. I really like Jamal Singleton. I think he's a very vocal running backs coach. I think the running backs have all looked really good. I mean, obviously, you've got to see what they do in the preseason, and they had limited carries last week. But I've been impressed by what I've seen from them. I think Jordan Howard's running better. I think Boston Scott looks faster. Again, they're getting something out of Jason Huntley, which is something we didn't see last year. And look, I mean, I think the tight ends are playing very well.
Okay, great. That's good to hear.